I'm the eldest son in a family of three. It's my frail mother, me, and my 12-year-old sister, Marie. Our dad passed away when I was 10, and since then, my frail mom has raised Marie and me with the little money she earned from working part-time jobs several times a week. When I was in my last year of middle school and thinking about my future, Mom told me,
We'll find a way to pay for it. You can take a student loan and go to high school.
but let's be honest, I've never been academically gifted. I thought it would be better to work, save up, and let the smart Marie go to school without needing a student loan. So after graduating from middle school, I applied for a job at a nearby convenience store. They had just lost a high school student who worked part-time because he graduated and left, so they were short-staffed. Luckily, they hired me right away. Although it was just a part-time job, I worked from dawn till dusk, earning what felt like a fortune for someone with just a middle school education. I was able to buy Mom a new set of pajamas to replace her old, worn-out ones, and I bought Marie a brand new uniform for her middle school, not a hand-me-down. While my old friends from middle school were enjoying their high school lives, we started to drift apart as we had less in common. But seeing my family's happy faces was all the satisfaction I needed. I still have a few close friends who haven't forgotten about me despite our different paths.
You know, back in the day, convenience stores used to give away bread that was close to its expiration date.
Today's Saturday, my day off from work, and my childhood friend Simon came over to hang out. Yeah, I heard that. One of the guys I got close with at work told me all about it. They used to take home stuff like rice balls and could pretty much live off that. Nowadays, because of health regulations or something, they don't do that anymore. Such a waste. Simon, probably trying to be considerate of me not attending high school, rarely brings up his school life and instead listens to my stories. I wish he didn't feel the need to do that, but that's one of the things I appreciate about him.
It's good you found someone you can get along with at work. I remember you saying before that it was mostly housewives and college students, so there wasn't really anyone you could easily chat with.
Yeah, that's true. Until recently, our schedules never matched up, but now we work together every Tuesday.
Oh, someone our age.
I couldn't help but laugh at Simon's question. It was so off the mark. But, of course, I hadn't mentioned it, so his assumption was understandable. No, he said he's almost 70.
What?
Simon's exclamation was louder than expected, causing my younger sister Marie, who was doing her homework nearby, to look up in surprise. Sorry. Both of us quickly apologized to Marie and then resumed our conversation in hushed voices.
He's working at a convenience store at 70?
I couldn't blame Simon for being shocked. Generally, people retire at 65, right? Even I, who didn't go to high school, know that. So, the mere fact that someone's working at 70 is surprising, let alone at a convenience store. Anyone would find it unusual. I remember being taken aback when I first learned about his age. But, you know, in a good way, he feels young. He doesn't seem like an old man at all, and he's easy to talk to. He's very calming and soothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it really feels like hanging out with a grandpa.
I gotta see this for myself. I'll drop by the store sometime.
Simon said with a chuckle. Since it's a convenience store, it wouldn't be odd for anyone to drop by, but there's something a little embarrassing about a friend seeing you at work. However, I was also eager for him to meet that old man, Mr. Samuel, so I didn't discourage him from coming. Good morning. When I arrived for my shift on Tuesday, Mr. Samuel was already in his uniform, standing at the register. Mr. Samuel, what time did you start today? When I asked, he replied in his calm voice. Good morning. I started at 8 a.m. today. That's just an hour earlier than me. Simon had said he'd drop by after school, but I wondered if Mr. Samuel would still be here by then. With these thoughts, I changed into my uniform and punched in my time card. Whether it's cleaning, inspecting products, or arranging items on the shelves, it's not a particularly busy store, but I do interact with customers. In between tasks, I chat with Mr. Samuel. You know, I saw this article on Twitter yesterday. It might be presumptuous of me, but I assume not many 70-year-olds are active on social media. Yet, Mr. Samuel keeps up with the latest trends on social platforms, often updating me on current events. He'll introduce me to new songs I've never heard of, or inform me about the latest celebrity marriages. He's surprisingly well informed for his age. That's interesting. Today, Mr. Samuel shared a bit about animals that apparently was trending on social media. My genuine reaction made him break into a pleased smile.
Thanks for always listening to this old man's ramblings.
Not at all, Mr. Samuel, you always tell me things I don't know, so it's fun for me. When I said that, he looked a bit surprised and responded,
Is that so? Thank you.
That day, Mr. Samuel finished his shift at 1 p.m. By the time Simon came around 4 p.m., he was already gone. Simon seemed a bit disappointed, but when he saw Laura, a college student working her shift, he quickly perked up, constantly saying how cute she was. About a week later, on a particular day, I started my shift at 4 p.m. When I arrived, Mr. Samuel and Laura were both there. Mr. Samuel was attending to a customer at the register, a woman who seemed like a housewife, while Laura was arranging magazines in their section. It was a usual scene, but as I came out of the back room after changing, I was startled by a shout.
It's none of your damn business.
Turning towards the source of the yelling, I saw a college-age guy, looking rather cocky, standing next to Laura. Right in front of him was Mr. Samuel. I froze, trying to understand what was going on. From their expressions and the atmosphere, I could somewhat piece together what had transpired.
Even though I came to see you because you ignored my messages, what's with this attitude? I ignored you because I didn't want to see you. Why can't you get that? Just go away.
Although I couldn't quite grasp the relationship between Laura and the man, it was evident that there was some tension brewing. The man seemed highly agitated, and I felt that I should intervene. However, I found myself rooted to the spot. That's when Mr. Samuel stepped in.
You shouldn't persist when a woman is clearly uncomfortable. You're causing distress to both Laura and the other customers. I'd appreciate it if you'd leave.
He spoke to the man with a calm and even tone. Despite his gentleness, there was an authoritative weight to his words. I hoped the man would realize he was out of line and leave, but instead, he became even more irate.
What's it to you? You have no business in this. Why don't you go do some cleaning, old man?
Yet, Mr. Samuel remained unruffled, replying,
I've just finished cleaning the restrooms a little while ago.
This response seemed to further annoy the man, who continued to hurl insults at Mr. Samuel.
What's your problem? Get out of the way. Working at a convenience store at your age? How broke can you be? Don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong. You're the lowest of the low. Old people like you are nothing but a nuisance. Go back to work already.
I had never asked Mr. Samuel why he was working at a convenience store, but whatever his reasons were, it was nobody else's business. Moreover, there was no reason for such a man disrupting the store's business to berate him like that. Although I had been paralyzed with fear just moments ago, anger bubbled up inside me, and before I knew it, I was standing right in front of the man.
Now it's a kid's turn.
He sneered at me. Yes, that's right. But honestly, you shouting without any consideration for others around you makes you seem much more childish than I am. I blurted out, forgetting that I was in my work uniform and representing the store.
You little pink. What's that attitude towards a customer?
The man was furious and lunged at me, but I was past the point of restraint. Do you seriously think we'd consider someone like you a customer? You're the real bottom feeder here. Apologize to Mr. Samuel. After all that, one of the customers, who had overheard the altercation, reported the incident to the police. After explaining the situation, I was quickly released, but the fact remained that I, a store employee, had gotten into a fight with a customer inside the store. That evening, I received a call from the store manager, informing me that I was fired. I wanted to say goodbye to Mr. Samuel, but I was told not to come back to the store. Ever since graduating from middle school and starting work at the convenience store, I had struggled to fit in. For a long time, I hadn't really enjoyed talking to anyone other than Simon. But after meeting Mr. Samuel for the first time in a long while, I genuinely enjoyed conversing with someone. The fact that he was 70 didn't matter, nor did the age difference. To me, Mr. Samuel was a cherished friend. Being a minor, when the police got involved, they had to call my guardian. So both my mother and my younger sister, Marie, were made aware that I had lost my job because of a fight. I had a responsibility to support my family, and I had jeopardized that by letting my emotions take over in the heat of the moment. While I stand by what I said to that man and don't regret my actions, I still shouldn't have done what I did. However, if I had been more mature, I might have found a way to defend Mr. Samuel's dignity and deal with that man without resorting to violence. I felt so ashamed of my childish and foolish actions. One day, while browsing through a free job magazine I picked up at the train station, my mother remarked,
Hey, what's that out there?
"Ever since I lost my job, I hadn't been in the best of spirits. To cheer me up, my mother would make small talk, commenting on the weather or something happening outside. Assuming this was one of those times, I asked, 'What do you see?'
It's a long car I've never seen before. Oh, it's definitely a luxury car. The kind that celebrities ride in.
It seemed unlikely that such a car would stop in our residential neighborhood, but when I looked, sure enough, there was a luxury vehicle parked in front of our old apartment building. The sight was so unexpected I was at a loss for words. I can't imagine anyone living in this apartment building owning such a car. Maybe it's the mob. They're known for driving fancy cars. Maybe it's for debt collection or something. That was the only explanation that came to my mind given the unusual circumstances."
Creepy, huh?
Mom also said with a worried look on her face. Just then, Ding Dong's doorbell rang loudly. Granted, even if the walls are thin, I shouldn't hear the neighbor's doorbell this clearly. "What?" Mom and I exchanged glances, and I went to the door, peeking through the peephole. There stood a tall man in a black suit, and I thought, he's gotta be a luxury car guy. Why? Looking again, I noticed another person standing behind him. Whoa! Recognizing the face, I exclaimed, "Mr. Samuel." It was Mr. Samuel who rang the bell. I was dumbfounded and opened the door.
I'm sorry for dropping by unannounced.
Mr. Samuel wasn't in his usual convenience store uniform. He wore a fancy suit from top to bottom. He looked so dapper and polished. It felt like I was seeing a completely different elderly gentleman. "You sure it's really you, Mr. Samuel?"
Yes, it's me. Sorry to surprise you.
"Oh, no problem. Please, come on in." The tall man in the black suit went back to his car, leaving only Mr. Samuel to come inside. My mom, who had cautiously appeared, was filled in on the situation and proceeded to make tea.
We don't have much.
Mom placed the tea on our small fold-out table we always use for meals.
Oh, please, it's no trouble. I'm the one who should apologize for coming without notice.
Mr. Samuel began explaining why he came by today after saying that.
I heard that after that incident, you were let go from the store. I wanted to thank and apologize to you, so I asked the store manager for your address. I really am grateful for what you did for me back then. I feel terrible that you had to stand up for me.
With that, Mr. Samuel deeply bowed his head. No, I just couldn't let it go. And maybe I acted a bit trashly, I hastily replied, to which Mr. Samuel lifted his face and said,
You truly are a wonderful and sincere young man.
I was taken aback, having never heard such words directed at me in my life.
I have a grandson, you know. He's grown up now, and we don't see each other much, but when he was little, he was really fond of me. But when he reached about your age, we had a big falling out. In my eyes, he was always my precious child. But I guess I failed to recognize his growth and continued to treat him like a kid. He probably hated that. He once told me, it's so clingy and creepy. Hanging with an old man like you is boring, so don't show your face to me anymore. I've never forgotten those words. Now that he's an adult, he interacts with me in a normal way, but it feels like there's this distance, a wall between us. I often think that if I had noticed his growth back then and made an effort to change myself, our relationship might be different now. It's been over 10 years, yet those farts still haunt me.
Listening to Mr. Samuel's story, I felt a deep pain in my chest. The way he talked, kind of like a younger person, and his adept use of social media, being way more informed than even me, it wasn't just a mere coincidence. It was because of his regrets that he had been trying so hard to keep up. I had no idea.
You see, despite how I am now, back in the day, I worked tirelessly. Because of that, I now own a few large companies. But after what happened with my grandson, I wanted to stay close to the perspectives of today's youth and not forget my roots. So I chose to work at a convenience store. In my own companies, everyone tends to walk on eggshells around me. And then I met you at that store. It made me so happy. Talking with you, always so engaged and cheerful, it felt like I was reliving the happy moments I missed out on with my grandson.
Mr. Samuel's voice held a hint of sadness, but there was also a glimmer of joy.
But look at me, coming here to thank you and instead subjecting you to an old man's tales. My apologies.
Saying that, Mr. Samuel took an envelope out of his bag and continued.
I feel like I stole a job from a diligent worker like you. I want to make it up to you.
When I opened the envelope, it was filled with money. In shock, I responded, I can't accept this. Seeing my reaction, my surprised mom also checked the contents and gently returned the envelope, but Mr. Samuel insisted.
I'm just an old man. This is the least I can do to show my gratitude. Please.
While I genuinely appreciated Mr. Samuel's feelings, I couldn't accept money for something I had done out of genuine concern and affection for him. It just didn't feel right. Thank you so much, but I can't accept the money. Instead, there's something else I'd like. Could you give me that? Upon hearing this, Mr. Samuel's eyes widened in surprise.
If it's within my power, anything for you.
Hearing his words, I continued, you've lived through different times, Mr. Samuel, and you know so much about both the past and the present. I'd like that knowledge. I want you to teach me, share stories with me. Even though we're not working together anymore, can you keep sharing your experiences with me? Mr. Samuel was taken aback for a moment by my words. Then, with tears in his eyes and a smile on his face, he said,
You really? Thank you for saying that. You've put my mind at ease.
From then on, Mr. Samuel and I would occasionally meet up at my place, or I'd visit him, and we'd share various stories. My mom and sister were also invited over for meals, and they were thrilled to get rides in his luxury car. While Mr. Samuel initially said I reminded him of his grandson, he gradually started saying,
It feels like I've made a new friend despite our age difference.
And that's how our friendship has continued to this day. My dream is to someday become a respectable adult like Mr. Samuel, maybe even managing a company of my own. I didn't go to high school and started working right after middle school, leading a life different from most, but because of that, I've met wonderful people I wouldn't have crossed paths with otherwise. I believe these connections will be an invaluable asset for my future.